Huh. Okay. It's been awesome already, and I'm just fighting back the tears and thanking God. Um, when I was asked, it was funny because Lily was over my house yesterday, blessing me with dinner. She brought pots and pans and everything. Awesome. But she gets the text from Andrea, and it's about, giving her testimony. And I'm like, yeah, girl, out of your comfort zone. And then I'm like, wait, where's my phone? And I go running over to my phone, and I look at it. I'm like, oh, thank you, Lord. And a little while later, here comes a text. Doo, doo, doo. I'm like, Lord. So I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm going to do it. But I didn't text her till today. I kept her waiting. Um, so, I was like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to say? And, our testimony of how we came to the Lord is just way too long to even do it now. Um, but as I was praying, even this morning, the Lord just kept saying obedience, talk about obedience. And so I wanted to tell you the story of how my journey got here. How did I come here to my house? Um, Me and my husband were, at a church for about more than 8 years. And we were very active, very involved. And all of a sudden, after, my husband had a term in the church and it was over, he shows up here one day. And he's here, and I didn't know why he was here. I didn't know he was here, but he was at this altar, and he was crying out, pouring his heart to the Lord. And he comes to me and says, babe, we're going to Temple Rock. And I look at him and I'm like, you're crazy. No, we're not. We're fine here, and we serve here, and the Lord uses us here. So what is the problem? If it's not broken, don't fix it, right? So in my head, all of those years, even though we were praying for revival and, seeking the Lord and just trying to figure it all out, I realized after, my husband kept coming, and then after his second visit, I think I told him, you are not going into that church alone. You are not single. You're a family man, and we're going to have to work something out. And so we made an agreement that we would come here. I would be with him so that everyone knew he was married, because, he's a handsome guy and he was taken. He's all mine. So and that he would come to church with me, right? Good deal. So that's what we did. And we would come here at 9 and go to church at 11, so I thought. And the first day I was here, it felt like home. And I was just like, okay, that was nice, but let's go home. And we would go, and for 4 months, we did that. But then I started to pray, because then it became harder. The Lord kept tugging, like, what is your problem? And I'm like, okay, I said, Lord, you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to speak to me, because I don't understand what you're doing. I don't know why you're taking me from here down the street. Like, whatever you want me to do over there, make it happen here, because we're fine here. And that's how I was talking to him. I was very frustrated, and I didn't understand, and I was trying to rationalize in my own head why this was happening. And I was just getting very excited, because that revival that we had been praying for was happening. It was happening here. And I was trying to take it over there. But what I was doing was wrong, because I was trying to drag everybody over here, and that's not what the Lord, it wasn't about that. It was about us, coming over. And as I began to pray and fast and, just ask the Lord, one day we were sitting there, and everything got quiet in the church, and it was like just me and the Lord. And I began to look around at the church, and I felt sad, because the Lord told me, are you staying here for me? Or is it because you're comfortable? And my answer was, but what about this person? But what about that person? How do I tell them bye? Why are you doing this? But then it wasn't, I was staying because of who was there and because of the memories I had there. I was there as a child. I got married there. I, presented my children there, and there was all these ties, but it was to people. I had plateaued. There was no more growth for me there. There was nothing else. It just was. And so when he stilled the church and I looked around, I realized, wow, Lord, my walk is with you. It's not with anybody else. It's all about you. And if it's about you, what am I struggling about? You have something for me, and here I am fighting you. And from that day, we decided, that's it. We got to go. And we came here, and we spoke to the pastor, and we called this our home, even though we did not know what was going on. And I just said, you know what, Lord, I'm going to be obedient, and I'm going to follow you because it's about you. And I don't know what you have, but I know it's going to be great because this walk is about you and not about anything else. And so quickly after, Pastor was giving an armor bearers class. And even from that day, we were invited to join the class very quickly after we were here just a short amount of time. And we were like, what? Armor bearer? What do you mean we just got here? So I'm like, Lord, what are you doing? We thought we were going to sit for a while. Yeah, okay. And taking the class, I was like, oh my goodness. I did not know what an armor bearer was. And I was like, wow, Lord, you're going to teach us so much. And although we thought we knew, we didn't know nothing. It was like crawling all over again. And it was just amazing because here I am, this new pastor, but I felt like I knew them forever. I was just like, my pastors are great. It was just an instant connection. And learning that so quickly, it's so easy to just push this ministry, to just be alongside these great people. It's just an honor and a privilege that the Lord chose us to partner with them. I brag. I'm like, I go to the greatest church. I want everyone here. It's like when you first accept the Lord that you're like, oh my goodness, you have to accept him. It's awesome. It's just like that. It's just like, oh my God, you have to come to my church. Even if they're in church, you're like, no, you have to come here. But, I don't do that as much anymore. But whenever I get the chance, I do. But the whole point is that even though I didn't know why, I started to see fruit. And it started with Celeste and Bert. They were coming, and they were part of the reasons I didn't want to leave. They had just started coming to church with us, and now the Lord is telling me, go here. I'm like, what do you mean? I got to leave them here? What is this? But they followed. And shortly after, they were married. So it was just amazing to see their lives being transformed here at this altar. Then it was Lily. And it was Chris. And the kids. Joe and Yvonne. Magda. Seeing the kids worship together. And little Layla speaking of the Lord. I'm like, Lord, they would have never had that hadn't it been for obedience. My sister, my niece doing banners here. My sister-in-law and my brother-in-law. And my nephews that have joined. My mom. Took my mom a while. That took a lot of prayer. But it was just like, wow, if it was just for them, then thank you, Lord. If it was just for that family, thank you. If it was for that family, thank you. Because you just never know why he's doing things. But eventually you see it and you go, oh my goodness, every time somebody comes that we know that comes to this altar and accepts the Lord, it's just like, what are you doing? Another one. But it's awesome to see it. Madeline and Wilson, Olguita and her family, and we've all gone through things, and I don't know if we would have stayed there if many of these couples would have made it. And just 2 years ago, my nephew was killed. And if it hadn't been for this church, I could have been crushed. Because honestly, I felt at that time that the Lord was there, but the enemy had just stomped on me so bad. I felt like I was down, and he just had his feet on me, and I couldn't get up. But as I was here, and I listened to Jen worship, I was like, Lord, I want to worship, but I can't. So I want to praise through her. And every word that she sang, and every worship song was just my heart pouring out to the Lord and asking him to help me to get through it. And I was like, I know that you have a purpose. And I don't know why it happened, but I choose to serve you because I came too far to let something like that bring me down. But I know that it was through this ministry that we were able to get through that, because that was a hard blow. And I told my mom at that moment, Ma, you need to come to the Rock, because you're going to need to feel the Spirit. You need that. That's the only thing that's going to get you through it. And she finally came over. And I believe that it was because of this ministry that it just brought it all together. So the only thing I have to say is be obedient, because you don't know where he's leading you, but it's in that small step, that unknown place that he wants to take you to, that if you choose to think in your own mind that, well, I don't know, or I'm too scared, or what's going to happen, just trust him. He knows all things, and if you trust him wholeheartedly and you follow him, you're going to see the difference. You're going to see the fruit. It's all going to come together. And I thank God for the things that happen, and I thank him for, what even happened to my nephew, as brutal as it was and as bad as it was. I'm like, thank you, Jesus, because we don't have to suffer or worry about him anymore. He's in a good place. And hadn't I done that, I wouldn't have seen the people come to the Lord and work in ministry and just be a part of what he has planned for each and every one of us. So just stay the course, be obedient, and as scary as it is sometimes, walk blindly and just trust him.